All right, welcome to the VetPractice Playbook, brought to you by VetPractice Pro, where we talk all things veterinary leadership, management, clinic ownership, and more. On this special episode today, you'll have me, John Biddles, accompanied by the Richard King. We're super excited to talk to you today, but beforehand, we just want to let you know that VPP has been officially launched. Go to vetpracticepro.com. Look at our different subscription packages, everything that we have to offer to help you and your clinic become the best you can be. Also, we have a circle community that you can join where it's full of people with like interest and questions and thoughts and frustrations that you can share amongst each other and often catch some wisdom from some of us. So make sure you're on our email list, follow us on social media, and don't forget to encourage your friends to like and follow VetPractice Pro. Today, we are going to talk about all things AI. AI is a big buzzword around every industry, and it's picking up steam in the vet med world. And we may not have all the answers for you, but we can probably shed some positive insight. So getting the ball rolling on our main play, let's talk to Richie and just say, hey, he's been our practice owner here in the past. And, there's a lot of buzz going on about AI out in the vet med world. And Richie, what are you hearing? What kind of things are popping up as far as AI goes in the veterinary practice world?
I would start off by saying that I'd probably like to talk about AI more generally.
Okay.
We talked about this before the podcast started I remember when the internet was just kind of coming online, so to speak, in the mid-90s, and you had a lot of banter back and forth about, this is going to revolutionize this or destroy that or whatever. And it hasn't necessarily worked out the way they said it would. In some ways it has. I think the timeline is considerably longer than what a lot of people thought. I think, but it has been slow but sure. One of the things that I can think about mostly would be, say, online brokerage, things that just simply didn't exist before that. I mean, years ago, you'd have to actually call a broker and have a relationship and an account of sufficient size to trade. And with the advent of TD Ameritrade or places like that, you can just hop on there and for a few bucks buy a stock, sell a stock, whatever you want. The other biggest, there's been a lot of effects, but another effect that I can see, just again, slow but sure, is the destruction of brick and mortar. Amazon, and mostly it's been driven by Amazon. It's just, I was in Best Buy recently. I'm there occasionally now, not very much. And it's a ghost town. I was in Barnes and Noble, actually this week to get him a book for school that he needed. And, I hopped online. I didn't need the book quickly, but, there was another book, that I saw there. I saw several that I looked at that I considered buying. But I, looked them up on Amazon and they were half the price.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is just the way of things. And when you can get, I don't know that people would necessarily pay a premium, double the premium for, say, a book to have it immediately versus, say, next day. There was actually one book I looked at was $27. On Amazon it was $13.
Wow.
So I was like, same book, same contents. Yeah. So I think, kind of full circle back to that. I think AI will move faster. I think it will be deeper. But I think there's still a lot of unknowns.
So what I'm hearing is you feel like AI is kind of this whole technology progression through, in comparison to internet in general, and how it changed things. Do you feel that, let me ask you this, do you feel, just for conversation piece, internet, if somebody didn't adopt that, if you didn't have a website, if you're a business without a website, not utilizing the internet, I've even heard Craig Rochelle say it, if you don't have a website, then you're a dying business, Right. Do you feel that in the veterinary practice world that those that don't learn to embrace and use AI are eventually going to see a huge fall off and a huge downfall if they don't start to really figure out how to embrace it and utilize it?
I think with the internet, with AI, it really just comes down to the flow of information. And as a tool, kind of an interesting example. The book I talked about a few minutes ago that I went to Barnes & Noble to get, it's called Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I think that's how you say it. But it's set in the 1850s or, early 19th century. And it's a very dense book, very detail oriented. She really creates a rich world. And Calvin remarked about how dense it was, a very dense read. And I said, well, back then I was like, that was the way people entertained themselves. I mean, there was, you consumed content in a broad sense, either the spoken word or the written word. That was it. I mean, whereas now you had the internet, which is, again, blew open the floodgates of the flow of information.
And you can't believe any of it.
Right. And whereas I think AI is, in my own experience, using it in a very limited sense, blows the lid off of say, Google.
Yeah.
I mean, there are things I know personally. I did some research on some IPO research I was doing, and I got information from ChatGPT in half an hour that I have not gotten in hours on Google. And it was just a conversation between myself and the tool. That was it. Me asking questions, it coming back, giving me scenarios. Would you like for me to expand on that? I was like, yes, expand on this. What is a K1 or whatever, So, I mean, having said all that, I think as a tool, as something that further accelerates the flow of information, I think you have to be willing to embrace it. If for no other reason from an operational standpoint, I think there are tools that are going to be becoming available that it's going to be almost impossible to operate without. Just like today, you think about a practice without the internet. It would be unheard of.
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't imagine. It's almost like having a practice without electricity. It's like, what? And I think that's where you're going to go with this. I think the tools will slowly but steadily come online. I think it will replace human capital in that regard, human resources, to a certain extent. I know my interactions with customer service companies, I'll call, and there's, more and more they're AI driven, and they're just, you interact. Now, they're not great. I mean, just let me preface that. They're not great. As an older person going, I just want to talk to somebody. But I do think they are getting better. And I think it's going to be difficult to differentiate between what's real and what's not going forward. I think it's going to be that good.
I think it's fantastic. I feel old sitting in this chair having this conversation, but trying to recollect on back how we used to do the Dewey. We had to do the Dewey Decimal System to find information and break out the old Encyclopedia Britannicas. And then Google came along and shattered the world.
Everybody needs a stern and perpetually unhappy librarian in their life.
My sister-in-law is
we all had one in school.
Perpetually unhappy librarian. Yeah,
would yell at you put the magazines back. It was always something. It's I think we all had that. I certainly had a few.
Exactly. So tell me, and I can participate in this too, but what kind of areas in vet med are we really starting to see the quick uptake of AI, where it's kind of like the low-hanging fruit? You see everybody kind of using this, the trend is headed that way. And then you have kind of your entry-level AI stuff where people can get started. What are those things that you see people adopting early on? I would think, for an example, the development of different SOPs,
Right.
different, you're talking about HR policy and procedure. Some of these kind of entry level don't quite hit the client type of things that you can use. And I think that what we're starting to see is AI is starting to become the master tool of efficiency,
Right.
where you would pay somebody else hours for their intellect and time to compose this stuff. You're starting to see AI on the back end. And how do you feel like veterinary medicine can benefit from that?
Now, part of this is just my own supposition. I'm assuming a lot of things, but I can imagine that you'll see a lot of, we'll kind of back up a little bit. When we had All-Star, one of the greatest tools we ever adopted was the Vocera system, because it took the place of an individual, to your point earlier, of running around and doing, communicating. I mean, using another person to communicate or interface with the rest of the staff or a collection of people. I look at AI in a similar way, not so much from a communication standpoint, but from a replacement standpoint. I think you'll see AI take the place of, say, doctor's notes. I think you'll see
Ooh, that's good.
where they'll go in and you'll have things that automatically transcribe, that will do things like that. I think from a sales process standpoint, I could totally see an AI product or tool that would analyze, like do a random sample of interactions, say maybe it's in reception to clients or in the rooms with clients, and then give suggestions for, this is a better way to handle this objection, or suggest this, sell it, whatever, to reach that gold standard of medicine. I think, this is me being lofty in my thinking. I think it would be naive to think that that won't have a profound effect on diagnostic and treatment recommendations going forward. And I think I probably in the human side too. I think that there are certain things that I know in my own use of AI, and I get it, it's a completely different thing, human medicine, those kinds of things. But the speed with which it can crank out information almost instantaneously is shocking. And when I use that tool, I can't help but think, how will this replace human diagnostics treatment plans at some point in some way going forward?
I saw a meme that said, be sure to focus on your health. Your future doctor is getting through med school with Chat GPT.
Right. We joke about that. That's probably true.
There's some, as working in the human health field, that's a little bit scary, but then again, maybe it's not. I mean, I saw as long as the information's accurate.
And this is not necessarily AI related, but I saw something recently, and this isn't new. I saw this years ago, where a guy was on a different continent and did a surgery because everything was so linked. He did a surgery remotely. I was like, that's fascinating but terrifying at the same time.
Right.
But I could totally see things being taken over, jobs being taken over by AI that were once held by humans.
Yeah, that's fair.
Monitoring, fair. Like, Emily's talked about anesthesia monitoring, all kinds of things like that, where it's possible. Doesn't mean it will happen, but I think, and I think too, this is a little out there, but I think you could actually even give AI, say, operational flow within a hospital, not be a veterinary hospital, and say, does this work? Optimize this. And it could say, well, have you thought of this? Whatever. Much faster, and the resources that it has access to are something that no one person could possibly do.
Yeah.
It would take them forever to do that, and they would miss things. And that's not to say that, the tools that I've used are perfect, but they're for sure impressive.
I think we've established that, AI is the future of communication tools and efficiencies, especially in vet med world, and that there is value to it. But we want to be sure that we're not exercising and using AI without restraint, without direction, without a grasp on it. And let's take a second and let's talk about some of the cautions that clinic owners, clinic leadership, and even all the way down to veterinary technicians and assistants looking to utilize AI to make their role more efficient. What cautions do you feel like vet med or any business in general should be taking when utilizing AI?
Boy, I think the thing to keep in mind should be at the forefront of your mind that it's still an imperfect tool.
Yeah. And
I think it should be used, at least at this stage, to complement, not necessarily replace entirely.
Yeah.
I think you should I know that I'm taking an AI class now. It's about 8 weeks, and we're about 7 weeks through. And that's one of the things the guy that's running the class has actually talked a lot about, is that he talks about it. It's fascinating the way he phrases it. He's like, this tool is like you're talking to 1,000 hyperactive geniuses, and you have to. So the reason he says that is that you have to guide it.
Yes,
it can go in all these weird kind of directions and permutations that may be unintended. So you have to consciously tell it where to go. Use my voice. This is my whatever. I think there's a lot of things to watch out for. I think, one of the things that I would caution people is don't be too hasty in overutilizing the tool just yet. Take baby steps toward what you do and use it more, at least at this stage, for just brainstorming.
Yep.
What do you think about, so.
I think it needs to be considered that always remember that AI, the reason it is the A in AI, the reason it's artificial intelligence is it lacks all human emotion.
Right.
And driving your clinic with stuff that that is very objective, concrete, solid information doesn't really take into account human experience,
right,
human emotion. It's data driven and very useful. However, AI is not going to understand the spirit of your core mission, vision, and values.
Right.
And if you're going to use it, you need to be sure that there is a human element complementing it that really puts in that emotional touch. Otherwise, you're just going to be a bland, robotic, same as the person down the road that's using AI kind of clinic. And AI is not looking to set you apart, from everybody else. If anything, AI is probably more wired to standardize. I think it would lean more towards a standardization without that human focus and that human element. So, from my perspective, I would say exercise caution in those areas. And even if, you talk about AI replacing human jobs, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's I would say not replace human jobs, but human tasks. People are multifaceted. They're able to be fluid. They're able to move and work successfully in different environments and respond to different stresses and different things like that. And they're able to be coached and brought up, where AI is you get what you get. Those 1,000 geniuses that you're talking to, the hypothetical 1,000 geniuses are going to conclude on one answer.
Right.
And so it could kind of give you, I could see where it could give you a little bit of tunnel vision if overused. But I could also say that, on the contrary, there's probably some clinic owners who have their own tunnel vision of this is the way we've always done it.
Right.
And the use of AI could expand, so it's really, you have to take it as it fits for you.
Right.
In my opinion, what your need is, and use it towards that. What are some ways you think that we could give our listeners ways to keep control over AI and dial it in and use it specifically for what they want? Making sure that that it isn't unbridled, so to say. How do we bridle that and control it? Do you have any thoughts?
What I would do is I would just start playing around with it and see what it can bring to your organization from a value add standpoint. I wouldn't just flip on a switch and start using it 100%. I would, maybe you have a complex problem and you're like, what do you think? Or what do you think, what have other companies done? Or from, let's say, a logistical standpoint, what do you, what's out there? I think, I don't think you're going to get in trouble with it necessarily. I think you have to be, every clinic specific, every culture is different, every community is different. And it's really just kind of use it in the way that it can best be utilized, but not to the detriment of your, like you say, your culture, your, whatever. So, and I think you have to be careful too. I know that my own personal experience, this has popped in my head. I go to the bank a lot, and some of the, I use PNC and Bank of America, and Bank of America is already a long ways down this road towards automation. But one of the things I like about PNC still, and they're slowly making this transition now, which kind of stinks, is that everything is very low touch.
Yeah,
you have to walk in with your debit card and do. It's like, okay, can I just have a deposit slip? Yeah, can I just do this? I've got these 10 checks. Can I just please? And they don't, and they don't let you, So I think that's an example of. And part of that's just, bringing older people like me kicking and screaming into the way, the way things are done. But, it's at least noticeable from my perspective.
Yeah.
So something to keep in mind, that you don't 100% overhaul everything and make it difficult to transact. That's the one thing we used to preach at All Star, is like, don't make it difficult to transact.
Yes.
Make it grease those transactional skids, so to speak. Because the more you do that, people will find an alternative, or they'll just be indifferent about where they go and kinds of things. So
at the church, there was a rule that said, we're happy to implement processes that make it easier on the staff to do our job. That's more efficient for the staff. However, the byproduct of that can't mean it's harder on the people.
Right.
And be careful with AI that it makes it easier and efficient for you and your team, but it makes it more difficult and lacks personality and humanism and emotional sense for your clients. And so we're talking about how we could implement AI, and how people who aren't using it may be able to kind of test the water or dip into that. And I think of, what are easy launch pads to, you said just try it out, maybe not implement it. And then when it comes time for implementation, I know we talked about the writing of SOPs, procedures that are just staff. They're not necessarily touching your client, but yet they can help utilize and develop structure around your organization in the clinic. I would also say content creation, when it comes to marketing, like marketing folks that have gone to a lot of school to create images and create logos and design and those types of things. You're talking about replacing jobs. AI can do that stuff very, very, very quickly. How have you seen AI used in vet med when it comes to content creation and the marketing side of things? Because I do think that is a very good entry point, because it will enhance your image as a clinic. Maybe not who you are and what you practice, but your superficial image of what your clients see before they come in. How have you seen that utilized in the industry?
I would start off by saying that I look at everything like an operational cycle. So if you have great marketing and the door is swinging, you get lots of new clients, but your delivery stinks, your client experience is terrible, it doesn't do you any good. So I would almost look at that tool as, how do I dial in every kind of point on that cycle? Marketing, operational, client service, everything. What's their client experience? Is it excellent? And what do I think it's going to revolutionize it. I'm not, Harrison's probably a much better person to talk about that from a day-to-day standpoint. I can just look at the things that are cranked out now, and I don't know how, and it's going to be difficult to tell what's real and what's not.
Yep.
And I think that's, if there's going to be a challenge going forward, I think that's going to be it.
Yeah.
And I also think breaking through the noise, now that it's so easy to create, it was already easy to create content, but now it's even more, it's even easier to make something that's different, at least for now. I think going forward, to your point earlier about the human aspect, I still think so long as you keep that and you use AI not to create necessarily things out of whole cloth, but to complement, say, the personal brands of the individual, say, doctors in a clinic.
Yeah.
I think that's where it's going to, it could help a lot. I also think, I think one of the greatest ways you could use AI operationally would be things that the client never sees, like, say, inventory management or things operational. What can we do to reduce, wait times for clients, things like that. Things that aren't necessarily directly related to the client experience, but they're kind of ancillary, but complement it. And I think that could be a great use of the tool too.
Yeah, I was talking about it for, promotions, content creation. And I heard something in what you were saying that at least I pulled it out, that again, you can't let this thing go unbridled and unrestrained and just spit out whatever it shoots at you, because you don't want to misrepresent your clients. If you put these pictures out here, everybody's seen the AI pictures, or you can make a bald old guy like me look beautiful with AI. Like, you don't want to
you can make a cat play a banjo, right?
Yeah, you don't want to use.
That's my favorite one.
It's like, you do not want to put out something and market something that you promote, and then they come in and their experience makes your client feel like they were misled straight from the get-go.
Yeah.
Also, on the flip side, you don't want to put out some shoddy marketing that it looks terrible and the photo content is not good, and it shows the hair on Mary's mole, and then they show up and they have an amazing client experience. You have to use this tool and not let it determine where you're at, but let it meet you where you're at. I think is some of the cautions that we need to exercise, and it seems like there's what we're getting to is a theme of there's a fine balance of too much versus too little, not letting it take away who you are, not let it overselling who you are, but still trying to dial that in and keep control of it. So From a time sake, though, there's one more topic I want to hit on with
Sure.
AI. Any tool that we look to talk about with vet med, let's talk about cost. Let's talk about, the price of AI tools. Is there a cost as far as financial? Is it only to gain? What can people expect this to cost their clinic, to add different AI tools? And honestly, Richie, I'm kind of unfamiliar with it outside of Chat GPT memberships. I know that there's some marketing stuff going on, but do you have any insight on as far as revenue stream and AI and cost and versus value?
I think the return's infinite.
Yeah.
I think for the cost input, I think it's no contest.
Okay.
It's pennies. It'll be pennies based upon the upside. I mean, compared to the upside. I mean, if you could, let's say that something cost you $1,000 a year, for instance, $2,000 a year, but it revolutionizes your operational kind of setup such that you're saving $100,000 a year, or you grow by 100. I mean, whatever that ratio is, I think it's pennies.
Yeah.
I mean, like when we used to talk about with Sarah, when we did that math years ago, I did the math and I said, it's a joke what this costs versus what we actually get.
Sarah, by the way, if you want to sponsor VetPractice Pro or the VetPractice Playbook, and for those of you to put it into context, our listeners out there, viewers, Vocera is a badge-like device. It's worn around the neck or clipped onto a collar of an employee, and it's a glorified walkie-talkie. It's like an on-demand walkie-talkie. You can leave messages, and there's basically sensors around your space that locate people, and you can like say, hey, locate Dr. King, and they'll say Dr. King is in the treatment area,
right?
Or you can say leave a message for Dr. King, and you can record a message and send it to her, or you can just talk to her directly. You can broadcast to your entire team if there's an emergency. You can push and hold and everybody can come, or there are different commands that you can program into it, and this is the efficiency that Richie's talking about. Again, this is a technology thing that it was kind of a no-brainer based on their return.
Right.
Most people might turn their nose up at it because of cost, or it's not the traditional way of doing things. But it turned out for All-Star to be a huge benefit. And I think that it falls kind of into this same bucket of internet, AI, technology tools that you can use. And it sounds like, what Richie's saying here is, AI tools for the cost, there's massive benefit in there, but proceed with caution, have policy and procedure around how it can be used, when it can be used. You don't want a free for all in your clinic that takes away the emotional side of it, the humanistic side of it, or steers you from your mission, vision, and values.
Yeah. And I think too, I mean, let's just say that a doctor didn't have to take notes anymore, and they were just every interaction was archived. Everything that was said, everything was archived such that the doctor didn't have to put any context. It's already there.
Yeah.
How many hours annualized does that free up for them to do other things? I mean, and that's where I think the greatest value is. That's why I say I think the return is infinite.
I literally just got done 2 weeks ago. I started to do it the old-fashioned way and write a hospital policy for the recovery room on end-tidal CO2 monitoring.
Right.
And somebody's like, just put it into Chat GPT. And I'm like, or actually we use Google Gemini. I know we give Chat GPT a lot of credit on this podcast today, but there are other tools out there. But I use Google Gemini because we use Google Suite, and it literally cranked it out. Now, there were things that I had to go in and modify that were not relative to our facility or our practice, those type of things. But the amount of time, intellect, and hours that it saved and manually writing that, it was remarkable.
Yeah, I'm on kind of the quasi HOA board for our neighborhood, and I was in charge of redoing some language in their basically HOA docs. Basically, there's a paragraph or two, and I went in and it cranked that out and gave me 3 or 4 different versions. But do you want a legalistic one? Do you want just a everyday one? Do you want a professional one? I was like, this would have taken me forever to do this. I could have done it. It would have taken forever. So I think, from a time freeing standpoint, it's golden. And that's why I look at it and I go, I don't know how this doesn't revolutionize everything. Now the downside is humans aren't writing. If the tool ever goes away, You know, not that the young people were writing in it, you know, anyway.
Yeah. You don't need spell check with Chat GPT.
Well, think about that, right? Even that's a crude example, but think about how that revolutionized everything.
Yeah.
Typing, you know, word processors, you can just go in and do spell check and it catches everything.
I got a 15-year-old son, and I know of a 26-year-old guy who can hardly read time on a face clock.
Oh,
because
wow.
their whole lives, everything's been digital. And so they're just used to that.
Yeah.
And, you know, for all the math teachers when we were kids and we had to draw the hands-on clocks. And we had to show our work, and you'll never always have a calculator in your pocket.
You're like, sure about that?
Like, hell I will, Miss Teacher. I got it all right here.
Got a supercomputer in my pocket.
I got exactly. I got the Encyclopedia Britannica here, and nobody even had to knock on my door to sell it to me.
I told the kids, it's a true story. I was in college in the mid-90s, and we had a project. I had to go, I was a business major, undergrad, and we had to go research a historical stock. This is pre-everything. And we had to go down to the microfiche room and then look up something in the Dewey Decimal and go find the reel, put it in, scroll over and look. And I tell the kids about it. They're like, what are you talking about? I was like, you will never have to do that.
Why didn't you just ask Siri?
Right. So
Siri wasn't born.
I was like, do you have any idea how long it took to do things back then?
Yeah, we're from the 1900s, folks.
It's like, go hitch up the horses.
Yeah, right.
Go down to the creek and draw water.
It's like the Oregon Trail here. We're all going to die of dysentery. So I think we covered some great information today on AI. Richie, is there anything else you want to add?
No, I would just say use it and be open to it, and use it to its fullest extent, and do great. So
exercise policies, give it structure, and bridle that thing a little bit, but don't ignore it. Don't turn it away. That's our message to you guys. And that brings us to the end of our podcast. So on that note, that's it for today's episode of the Vet Practice Playbook. We hope you got a few things to use for yourself and for your clinic. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to share it with others, leave us a review, and check out VetPracticePro.com for tools and courses that can take your clinic to the next level. We're so excited to see you next week. Thanks for tuning in.
See ya.